think it's like frozen or something.
Alright, let's go. Today we got Crystal Cave, another duo collab between me and Silex. Me and Silex each decided to build 2 parts. I built 2 and he's currently building a second one because I build faster. But since I have some time to kill, for today's video I'm gonna go layer by layer and actually show you how I made these designs. I got to build simple shit and I'm good at that. Hopefully I can make this fast enough. We'll start with the colors. The reason we're starting at 501 is because for groups and colors, Silex used 1 through 500 and I got the rest. First color we got is white, second color we got is black. And now the rest of these colors are gonna, for the most part, copy each other because I set it up to where everything eventually copies this color, which copies the background. So that way I can get away with using only 1 pulse trigger every so on to brighten up the entire part. This copies the background with no changes. This copies that color at twice the brightness, and this gets copied by this at twice the brightness again, but with blending. You notice if I use it, I have some glow. And then color 504 copies this color, but with no blending, no other changes. I use these colors on the spikes, for example. The outer part of the spike right here uses 504. Oh yeah, and color 505 also copies this blending color, but with no blending and less saturation. These are for these outer lines right here, so they're still whitish, but still pulsing with the background, and you can easily see the block design. I made the object color copy this color, and since I have a collab part that isn't at the start of the level, I'm just going to use color triggers every time. And then the 3D lines color copies the object color at 0.4 brightness. If you want to copy me, you could try, but I'm not popular yet, so why would you? We move on to the pulses. The background, the ground, and the line usually has to be black. I just decided that on random since it's not really needed. I never use the middle ground, but anyway, since we now can make everything pulse off of 1 pulse trigger every time, let me show you how I do my simple pulses. Alright, so we start off with the first ever pulse of the level. I went with a sort of dark purple that has a really quick fade out time. So that's the first pulse of the level. And now we got the last pulse of the level. You know that element of this song where it goes doot 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 doot? Yeah, I'm timing my pulses based off of that. This pulse starts off with a doot, and I'm ending off my pulses on another part of the song where it goes doot. Now for the rest of the pulses, we're going to make use of align X. I'm just going to start off with 2 more pulse triggers in the middle of these other 2 pulse triggers. Align X, and they immediately align themselves. Okay. Oh, lines up. Oh, we got a little bit of rhythm. Now we need even more pulses between these. It makes up for the doo-doo slower fade out time. Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Yeah, you know what I mean. You'll see why this comes into play. Now, when we align X all of these triggers, we're doing it with this one instead of this one. There we go, a perfect roll, a perfect row of pulses. Now we have the free liberty to just copy paste that throughout the entire level, and then it just starts all over again. Don't worry if you don't get it on the first try, it takes a lot of practice. This next step is optional, but you can change the hues of some of the pulses so they're a little bit more unique in a sense. Hope that makes sense. Now let's go through layer by layer. Layer 0 is the entire layout. I make sure the entire layout is on layer 0, so as I copy paste Deco into here, I can make certain structures invisible. And what I ended up doing here is basically all of my Deco was on no touch and passable. I'll show you why that comes into play in a second, but for now, let's go into layer 1, the block design and spikes. You see these connector designs right now? The people that know me and what I build, y'all know that I overuse the fuck out of this, and I'm doing it again. If you invite me to any other serious project, you will not see me build this connector design. At least I'll try not to. But for here, I get a leeway. To explain the block design, I'm going to go through each layer very quickly. Every time I click on an object, you will be able to see the details up here, including what Z layer it is on, up here, what Z order is on, up here, what editor layer is on. For example, right here, it's going to be 1 since we're on editor layer 1, and then what color it is. We have our first set of lines that are very easy to see. On the second layer, layer is our second layer of lines, so it gives these third layer of lines some emphasis. They're basically the same as these ones, but I just copy pasted them and moved them 3 very mini spaces down or out, depending on how you think of it. Moving on, we have the black base for layer 4. I basically just use an object to fill up the entire structure. Next up, now we have the details. Honestly, this part is where I just like take a random block and it fills the entire structure. Connectors. There's plenty of blocks that you can choose from when making your designs. Honestly, just go crazy. I don't really care. You're you. Just choose whatever. I also chose whatever, and look how it's turning out. For the second to last layer I just like took this type of object, randomly placed them on the sides of these blocks, scaled them down, and then I made sure they were the same color as these first row of lines. Subtle detail, looks cool to me. And then right before the level was entirely finished, I ended up doing my normal glow work. Took 2 glow pieces like this, scale X them out, put them on a blending color, but for the HSV slider, the brightness is 0.6. Copied the values, took a line, scale X that out, and then pasted the color. But I also made the saturation 0.6, so the line kind of like sticks out. I know it took me a while to explain, but I think I actually made this simple design in like 5 minutes. Normally it would take me a really long time, even for the most simplest designs, but I kind of had this idea going into building. And then for each one of these type of spikes, we have a 2 object design. I hope you notice right here, this one is going to use color 1 and color 2, certain details that have a base and a detail. In this case, the base is the object color and the detail is the black color. And then for this second spike right here, I scaled it down to 0.65, moved it a little bit so it lines up perfectly. And if you think this design is kind of simple, feel free to do your own based off what I told you. Spoiler alert, I copy pasted from my design that I used over here. Then I took that, deleted these details and put in some new ones. In this case, we have some bricks, brick 3D lines. The more you learn about the editor, the easier it'll be to find them all. I already explained the colors. Everything after that is just trial and error. I wonder why I put this piece of black glow in here though. That does like nothing. To layer 2 for the entire level, these shards. When custom making these, I kind of went off the same idea as this, but instead of using 2 objects, I used 8 objects because I wanted to make each layer more noticeable. And then I just took this and converted it and copy and paste it down here. So yeah, it just looks like that. Oh wait, did I say 8? I meant to say 11. I put 3 pieces of glow on top of this. Yes, there was these shards in the original layout. That's why I made them in the first place, but they ended up turning pretty cool. But I could never rotate or move them into the exact same spot, and I'm honestly not even sure if these smaller ones are like the exact same scale. So I set these on no touch and passable, so the only real hitboxes you gotta worry about is the ones from the original layout, but these are as close as it can get. I made sure of that. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, I ended up just making the block designs and spikes no touch and passable, because when Z Silex makes his layouts, he uses a whole different type of spikes. Similar, but usually not the same. At least there's not much of a difference, but you're never gonna see me use these to make my designs ever. Like, look at this spike right here. How is this on an entirely different grid? Sawblades. Entirely the same concept as the spike. I also used this type of saw blade for some reason. When I was going based off how I was going to deco this entire level, I've referenced End Levels level, Chicken in the Redux, but it was more unknown levels. And I kind of just went based off whatever the f you build there. And now we have this. And then these type of saw blades is more what you would normally see me build. For these saw blades, I have the liberty of taking a circle that's one object and then just layering even more on top of each other. But making sure when you use those circles, either get ones that don't pulse, or if you go into this channel and accidentally use these ones, just turn on no audio scale so they don't pulse, because I don't want these to pulse. But I don't know, if you can somehow pull it off, you can get them to pulse on your own if you want to.
Okay, so I turned off the lights. What?
The stars.
Alright, now layer 4, we have a bunch of stars all around the level for some reason. Another random detail that I took from end level. I basically took this object, copy and paste it until I made a ball, and then I moved these 2 mini spaces into each other. until I have what looks like it's a star. Then I take this entire star, copy paste it a little ways around the entire level, and then I take that same star and then make two different ones, one with minus 20 hue and another with plus 20 hue, and span that around the level. And then I took all three of these stars, can streak them and copy paste them again. I know I'm lazy, but I just decided I wanted to do that. You get a little bit of a 2.0 type of vibe. Anyways, onto layer 5, we got the ground spikes. Take a random spike that you want to build with, and then make some unique patterns of ground spikes. And then later on, you can put some glow on top of it, and then add some really bright glowy or some entirely black details on top of it all, like I did here, and like I will do for the entire level. And I don't know, if you're feeling like you want to make something slightly more unique, and you know how these Z layers and orders work, you can make a second layer of ground spikes. Okay. Next up, we have more stuff we're gonna put in the background. I don't know, that's up to you. I chose these bricks though. Literally just copied and pasted them randomly throughout the entire level, and I think it looks clean. For this part, I did these blocks. And for the next part, we have these glowy lines that move on top of everything, really slowly to the left. Saw some other glow design creators making these, and I decided to copy them. Layer 10 is the pulses. I already showed you how those work. Oh, and look at that. On layer 11, I copied the same glow lines. Let me see, for this same part, I just copied the effects. Except for these ones, I removed the 3D lines that go along with this glow, and I kind of inverted them. I guess the last two things I could talk about is the orb designs. And then these are the orb designs for this part. The indicators, just arrows that point you to where you're supposed to go. Although this is an extreme demon, so I can get away with not using them that much. I know I copied this from an end level. I made this one off the dome, but this one's inspired by Promethean. Why do I steal stuff? I don't know, but I'll try to make it look cool when I'm doing it. And then once you're done building all these details, you just select everything. Make sure everything is on no glow, so you don't get this annoying effect. And then don't fade, don't enter, so you don't get that random fade effect on objects when they appear on your screen, and leave it. Silex did say for groups that just like the colors, I get 501 and above. The way I did that was to make a setup where it would just take up the rest of the free groups all the way to 500. Let me simplify how I did this. Here's a block with a group, and then I placed the move trigger assigned to it. It doesn't do anything, but I placed that there so I can build helper to the next part. But I placed it there so I can build helper onto the next group, and then the next group, and so on and so forth, until I get all the way to 500. And I set up my own row of like 100 blocks in order to do this really quickly. Take that and build helper every time until you get to whatever you need. So while I'm building, I can just use build helper. So that way it's like way easier to keep track of what groups you already use, because chances are you will end up accidentally using someone else's groups. Also keep track of your colors as well. And that's the end of Robocoin builds in Crystal Cave. Anyways, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you later. Have a good day.